Hi there, I'm Roger Lee from ArtframeR in Kelowna, and I want to introduce you to Lynda Norman. Lynda is a watercolorist living in Kelowna and sharing her wares, her beautiful artwork in different places in the world, ever expanding. And she's going to tell you all about how she does it, what she does, and where it all comes from. Okay, so you wake up in the morning and you go into your studio. What happens? Like in every, what are the steps that end up in a painting?
Well, most of the paintings come out of my imagination, my brain. I dream of painting,
Yep.
but I very rarely dream of a finished product or where I want it to end up. But so for me, the actual process of putting the pigment and the water together is the magical part.
Right.
So I do paint with a particular brand of watercolor. I use Daniel Smith fine art watercolors. I love the pigmentation, the way they're formulated. They do the things that I know they will do.
Right.
I've learned about them over the years, and I have them in a paint box.
Yeah.
So they each have their own little wells, and it's and I use a spray bottle. I mist it down as soon as I go down to my studio because I want those paints to be lovely and luscious and juicy.
Yeah.
And so I will spray them down with a mister. I will go about getting my brushes out of my little pack, and I have a couple of favorite brushes that we can talk about later at some point as well. I think maybe on my channel I will do some
Good idea.
features
Give us some
some of the brushes and the products
demonstrations.
because they make a huge difference to me.
Right.
To me. And so yeah, I will go get my paper. If I'm working on paper, sometimes I'll paint on canvas, and we'll talk about that in a second too. It's a little bit different. And I'll spray the paints down again lightly, just give them a gentle waking up.
Yeah.
Fill up my little containers of water, one for cleaning the brush and one for clean water, and I'll sit. I have a table about this height and a seat about this height, and that's most comfortable for me.
Yeah.
Some painters like to have a bit of an angle,
Right.
so that there's gravity working. And if I'm doing a vignette or something where I want the paints to run,
Yes.
then
Change
I can put a pencil or a brush behind and let that happen.
gravity.
Exactly.
Work,
So I'll get my paper, and I use, unless I'm doing a small greeting card, I will use 100% cotton paper. And that's important to me because it allows my pigments to do what I know they can do.
Yeah, cotton reacts very differently.
Absolutely a
Water.
game changer for any
paper.
watercolor artist who wants to take their work to the next level. Is to work with 100% cotton paper. And there's several brands out there, and you'll have to work through and find out which one feels best because everybody's different.
Yeah.
We hold our brushes different. We sit differently. There's different angles. There's different appreciation of water to pigment ratio.
Right.
And then if I'm painting a landscape, I will wet the paper randomly. I like to leave some dry spots because that will leave white spots on my painting.
That's right.
And I can fill them in later. I don't use white paint. The paper itself comes through to bring that whiteness and that sparkle to a painting. And then I'll start applying the paint. If I'm doing a landscape, I will put my little bit of gold, quinacridone gold, and then some nice Mayan dark blue, and that sort of brings my sky to life.
Right.
And then my brushes typically, as I said, aren't what normally are considered watercolor standard brushes. So I use wide brushes, 1 inch, 2 inch hake or hake brushes. I have a couple of specialty brushes from an artist out of Montreal. His name is Michael Soloviev.
Okay.
And that's again a wide brush, but it comes to a very, very chiseled point.
Oh, good.
So you can paint big washes, but you can also paint flagpoles or tree branches with it. And then I have another set of brushes that I bring in from Tracy Levinson out of Seattle, and he hand makes each one individually out of recycled and repurposed material.
Yeah. Okay, so you've had time to really source the exceptional
Yeah, so 3
tools
brushes
that work
basically
you.
for pretty much anything I'm painting on paper. And that's pretty much it. I'll get that on, I'll take a heavier brush and just put some color on it and allow it to flow out. And from there, generally I'll see, and I love landscapes. I grew up with, you know, in the local hills with my dad and mom camping and fishing and you know, that's...
Well, for those of you who don't know, the Okanagan Valley, which is where we live, Kelowna is one of the towns in this valley. It is an extraordinary valley with some enormous lakes that run great lengths north and south, and hillsides each way. Beautiful place, and for a landscape artist, it's
so inspiring, so inspiring, and you know, I've come to know since my watercolor journey started, and through social media, some incredible artists around the world, and you know, have been told many times that that particular painting reminds them of their home.
Yes.
You know,
some universality about it.
So yeah, whether it's something that I've seen physically, you know, as a young person growing up, or maybe I've astral traveled and visited somewhere.
Okay, again, the dream world. They're
right.
floating around.
It could be.
Seeing things from a different angle.
Yeah, and I don't, you know, I don't worry about specifics. Most of what I do is dealing with shapes and colors and shading. So you'll know that that's a mountain. You'll know that that's a tree. You'll know that that's, you know, a lake.
I find your work to be very atmospheric.
Oh, thank you.
It's got the elements of water and rock and hillside and cloud and air and condensation even, and fog and light. Beautiful stuff. But I keep telling people as I describe your work, to me there's so much of a timelessness. Your paintings are often like a time before the dinosaurs. Like it's extraordinary. A window into a world that could have been any time millions of years ago.
Some of my paintings have titles that come from Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings.
Oh, good, yes.
You know, and so I've sort of played on that a little bit. This particular painting is not on paper; it's on canvas.
That's right.
It's on a 2-inch deep exhibition canvas. That is a different process altogether. And I take watercolor paint from the tube, and put it on a little tiny palette, just blobs of it, and then I'll take a credit card or a palette knife. And once I've wetted my canvas, and again I wet the canvas randomly. I don't want the whole thing saturated in water, so randomly, and then I'll drag the pigments across, sometimes 1 or 2 at a time, maybe all 3 at a time, and then let the water on the canvas do what it needs to do.
And it behaves so differently from paper.
It does, and many of the pigments that I use are granulating, and that means that they will migrate and do their own movement.
And as they dry, they'll again change it further.
Absolutely. And then there are pigments, for example, like a quinacridone gold, which is it's going to push the other pigments right out of the way.
Oh, really?
And take over and do its own magic. So I usually leave that till the last. But that's basically the process. Often it's what you take out that provides the finishing touches. So whether it's with this one, I didn't do much pulling away on the shoreline, but in the cloudy areas, a damp paper towel and just lifting out some of the pigment to make the mists and the clouds a little more visible, and then that's that.
Stunning, Thank you for staying tuned. It's been really marvelous sharing Lynda with you all. And if you'd like to know more about ArtframeR, you can certainly check out ArtframeR.net, and be sure to subscribe to this channel right here.